Hello, Miss Hua and everyone. I'm Huyền from class SMk03 and welcome to my presentation on section 5 and 6 of sensory marketing. Let's start with section 5, sensory principles for smell. Have you ever wondered why the smell of fresh bread makes you feel hungry or why certain perfumes instantly remind you of specific people? Today, we will explore how the sense of smell works at the deepest level and discover why it's one of the most powerful tools in marketing. The sense of smell is extraordinary. It's active even before we are born. Unborn children can start perceiving scents from food their mother ate after just 12 weeks, and this shows how fundamental smell is to human experience. Let me start with some fascinating facts about the human nose and smelling. Believe it or not, smell accounts for up to 80% of what we perceive as taste. Without their specific skins, Coca Cola and Pepsi would taste like almost identical. This is why when you have a cold and can't smell, food seems flavorless. Scans, both artificial and natural, directly influence our cognition, emotions, and behavior, often without us realizing it. The smell of fresh bread can trigger immediate impulses to buy, even if you weren't planning to purchase anything. People who lost their sense of smell, a condition called anosmia, often experience sadness and depression. This shows just how emotionally important scent is to our well-being and quality of life. Throughout history, perfumes have signified power and status. Ancient civilizations like Egypt and Rome used fragrances as precious gifts and in sacred rituals. Interestingly, perfume composition remains an elite profession today, with most top noses being male. Today's retailers use scent marketing strategically. Introducing ambient scans in stores increases the time customers spend shopping, how much they touch the products, and ultimately their purchases, of course. Advanced technologies like nebulization also allows perfume to be dispersed through aerosol system or ventilation, creating seamless and scant environments. Now let's dive into how smell actually works, both sociologically and psychologically. For the sociological aspects, your nose contains approximately 5 million olfactory cells in the nasal cavity. These cells send electric signals to the olfactory bulb, which forwards the information to your brain for interpretation. This system enables you to recognize and remember an enormous variety of scents. However, smell is slower than vision. It takes about 400 milliseconds to register a smell compared to just 45 milliseconds for a visual image. Unlike other senses, smell is synthetic, meaning combinations of scents create entirely new, sometimes unpredictable fragrances. Think about chocolate and licorice. Together, they create something completely different from either scent alone. Your perception is also influenced by strict manual stimulation involving pain, temperature, and touch sensations. This is why mint doesn't just smell fresh, it actually feels cool. Moving on to the psychological aspects, here's where it gets really interesting for marketing. Scans are perceived physically first, then cognitively or emotionally. Your initial reaction, like or dislike, is immediate and cannot be consciously corrected after the fact. Scans are closely linked to long-term memory. People can remember scans with remarkably high accuracy even after a full year. More importantly, olfactory stimuli evoke more emotional memories than visual, auditory, or tactile cues. Pleasant scans make people more creative and happier. Studies show people perform better and feel more positive in pleasant smelling environments. However, intensity matters. A strong pleasant scan can become unpleasant if it's too intense, and people adapt to background scans over time. Let's take a look at the olfactory perception and societal culture. Smell perception isn't just individual, it's deeply cultural. Each person has what we call a fragrance fingerprint, a unique scent identity. People naturally prefer familiar and pleasant scents, but cultural learning shapes the preferences significantly. And the age and gender do make a difference because women generally have a stronger sense of smell than men. Sensitivity can vary due to health, age, and even the menstrual cycle. Interestingly, pleasant scents like lemon does improve the alertness in environments like driving simulators. About the cultural variations, olfactory preferences differ dramatically across cultures. For example, cheese is highly appreciated in Western Europe but often seen as rotten in Southeast Asia. What smells clean or happy in one culture might be perceived completely differently in another. And finally, scan symbolism. People often struggle to label scans. This is called the tip of the nose effect. However, scans can evoke powerful, immediate emotional memories, known as the Proust phenomenon, named after the famous writer who described how a Madeleine cake's scans trigger childhood memories. Let's look at how businesses use smell strategically in their service environments. First of all, it's about ambient scans in retail. Like hotels, restaurants, and shops, they use scans to create atmosphere and prompt the behavioral responses of the customers, and they aim to increase longer time spent in stores of the customers, increase their purchases, and improve their mood. The key is congruence. A scan must match the environment to be effective. And about the place markers, some locations they use the unique signature scans to distinguish themselves. Miami, for example, uses a signature baby powder and citrus scans in certain areas to create a memorable sensory identity. Let's talk about mood and behavior effects. Different scans have specific psychological effects. For citrus, it improves mood and performance. For mint, it reduces stress and increases the focus. For vanilla, it creates comfort and relaxation, and lavender reduces anxiety. Experiments consistently show that pleasant, congruent scans increase the comfort, willingness to help others, and positive evaluations of stores and products. Now let's see how brands use smell strategically for their brands and products. There are three types of scent marketing. The first type is primary attribute, which is essential to the product, such as perfumes, detergents. And the second one is secondary attribute, which added enhancements such as scented cars. And finally is the advertising or promotion. It's a marketing tool such as scratch and sniff ads. However, not all scent marketing succeeds. Um, and I want to mention the God Milk scented plus stop fail due to the consumer complaints. They're not showing that the execution matters enormously through this advertisement and not applying a successful scant marketing. For the product evaluation enhancement, the scans enhance product memory and evaluation significantly. Study shows that scented pencils or tissues improve recall even weeks later. Importantly, product specific scans are more effective than general ambient room scans for product memory. Some scans can be registered as olfactory trademarks if it's distinctive enough. Examples include Verizon's Flowery Musk scent and Graydon's Bubblegum scented scandals. Many companies create signature scents that aren't trademarked but become powerfully associated with the brand. Let me give you a perfect example of how scant branding that has been done right by the case of Singapore Airlines, consistently ranked among the world's best airlines. Pioneer experiential branding with the Singapore Girl icon symbolizing caring, elegance, and Asian hospitality. The signature scent, which is the Stephen Floridan Waters, combines citrus, lavender, and rose. This scent is deployed throughout the entire passenger experience, on their hot towels, flight attendant uniforms, and throughout the cabin as well. This creates a meaningful, memorable branded olfactory experience that passengers recognize and recall long after their flight. The result? A complete sensory brand identity that goes far beyond visual logos and extends the info emotion memory for the Singapore Airlines that had been succeeded to deliver to the customer's mind. In conclusion, for this chapter, smell is one of our most powerful and emotional senses. It works unconsciously, creates lasting memories, and varies significantly across cultures. When used strategically in service environments and brand experiences, scans can dramatically influence consumer behavior, mood, and purchasing decisions. The key is understanding your audience and ensuring scans congruence with your brand and environment. Now let's move on to section 6, sensory principles for touch. Have you ever wondered or noticed how you automatically want to touch products when you are shopping? Or how a firm handshake affects your impressions of someone? Touch is one of the most attractive senses and plays a crucial role in how we interact both physically and mentally with brands and products. Today, we will explore why we try before you buy is so powerful and how smart companies use touch to influence our purchasing decisions. Let's start with the human body and touching. Touch is absolutely crucial for human interaction with brands and products. The power of tactile information directly shapes our cognition, emotions, and purchase behavior. Touch is one of our most active senses, often working closely with vision to give us complete information about products. Beyond visual inspection, while we can see products, touching allows for much deeper investigation. When you pick up a smartphone, you're not just looking at it, you are evaluating its weight, texture, build quality, and how it feels in your hand. This tactile evaluation influences your trust and confidence in the products. And the impulse purchase connection to touch is that research shows that touching products increase the positive attitudes and can lead to impulse purchases. There's something powerful about physical contact that creates the psychological ownership before you even buy. And even interpersonal touch matters in business. When staff appropriately place hands on customers, like a gentle touch on the shoulders, it affects the perceptions of service quality and friendliness. And one of the biggest challenges in e-commerce is the absence of tactile feedback on the digital channels because you can't feel clothing, fabric, or test the weight of electronics online, which is why many people still prefer shopping in physical stores for certain products. Let's understand how touch works, both sociologically and psychologically. For the sociological aspects, the tactile or haptic sense is engaged through skin and body contact with objects and people. Your skin is your body's largest organ, about 2 square meters, packed with sensory receptors. Your fingertips are especially sensitive, containing thousands of nerve endings. About the active and passive touch, there is an important distinction between these two types because the active touch is when you explore with your hands and fingers, and the passive touch is when you are being touched. The active touch will give you much more information and create stronger impressions. And I would like to mention the oxytocin effects. Touch will release oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, which promotes the feelings of well-being and relaxation. This is why the tactile experiences feel so satisfying. About the psychological aspects, touch is vital for intellectual development, empathy, satisfaction, and overall well-being. Amazingly, people can identify objects and even brands by touching alone. Two types of touch behavior is the hedonic touch and instrumental touch. For the hedonic touch is like some sort of touching for pleasure, fun, or interest. It's desire driven and exploratory, not necessarily leading to purchase. And the second type is instrumental touch. It's a kind of goal-oriented touching to obtain specific product information like material quality or functionality. The duration and nature of touch significantly influence purchasing decisions. Sometimes people buy products that feel good even if they're less visually appealing. Now let's talk about tactile perception and societal culture. Touch preferences and meanings vary dramatically across cultures. For individual differences, people have unique tactile preferences measured by their need for touch. Higher need for touch individuals will require hands-on evaluation before making decisions, while lower need for touch people may rely more on visual information. Physical contact rules also vary enormously across cultures. In Europe, US, Australia, handshakes is for greetings. For the Eskimo cultures, they will use the nose rubbing for greetings. And in France or South America, they will kissing on the cheeks. And in Asia, they will bowing with minimal physical contact. This showcased the differences across cultures. For the gender differences, women tend to touch more for emotional evaluation, while men touch more for instrumental purposes like assessing function and quality. Emotions can also be conveyed differently through touch. Men more often signal anger, and women sympathy. About touch symbolism. Touch symbolizes belonging, care, empathy, and love, or conversely, disapproval and coldness. We even use temperature metaphors for relationship, such as warm person versus cold shoulders. For visually impaired individuals, tactile symbols will become crucial communication aids. Now let's examine how service environments use touch strategically. The service environments like banks, restaurants, and shops, they use tactile cues through air temperature, materials, texture, and surfaces to create specific atmosphere. Smart retailers encourage touching through signage like feel the freshness or open product displays. This increases engagement and often leads to impulse buying because touching creates psychological ownership. However, there's a limitation for the online platform because physical touch is mostly absent in online environments, creating a significant disadvantage for digital retailers. Some customers compensate by ordering products online, evaluating them at home, and returning what doesn't meet their tactile expectations. And when service staff appropriately touch the customers, like a brief hand on the shoulder or arm, it will increase the positive evaluation of staff, store, and products, especially for women. In restaurant, appropriate touch increases the time spent, the amount spent, perceived friendliness, and tips amounts as well. Now let's see how brands use touch strategically for their products. Product characteristics like hardness, softness, material, texture, and weight are crucial for tactile branding. For example, as the supermarket increased the toilet tissues sales by simply leaving products unwrapped so customers could feel the softness of their tissues. Even print advertisement can use tactile effects, using rough paper for skincare ads, targeting dry skin problems, or smooth paper for luxury products. Modern haptic technology in devices will provide feedback that increases engagement and connection. Haptic touch is crucial for products like clothing and toys, but less important for others like books or electronics where function matters more than feel. Generally, vision will dominate over touch except in specific categories like fashion and furniture, where tactile qualities are essential to the product experience. The most effective approach would be a multi-sensory integration, combine vision, audio, and touch to create comprehensive customer engagement. Experiments show that duration and likelihood of touching increases when tactile stimuli are readily available. And about the touch symbolism, objects and packaging can communicate quality, durability, and benefits through the tactile design. Think about how a heavy, textured shampoo bottle suggests premium quality, or how different textures communicate different products' benefits. And the brands can create unique tactile aspect tied to their identity, like the distinctive feel of an iPhone or the specific tactile experience of Apple stores. Apple even developed a taptic engine to create the unique touch-based feedback experiences for their customers. Okay, so just mentioned about Apple, we will Come to the case of Apple stores. It's a perfect example of how tactile marketing has done brilliantly. Apple stores exemplify tactile marketing through their glass and steel aesthetics, uncluttered spaces, and completely open displays designed for hands-on interaction. Staff are specifically trained to encourage touching and experiencing products without any sales pressures. The entire layout and sensory design reinforce Apple's brand image as futuristic yet approachable. This touch-based strategy is incredibly successful. Apple stores have some of the highest revenue per square foot in retail, and touching products triggers desire and plays a key role in their retail success. The core of Apple customer engagement strategy is touch-based evaluation and experience. They understand that when people touch their phones, their products, they are much more likely to buy them. So, in short, for this chapter, touch is one of our most active and influential senses. It varies significantly across cultures and individuals, but consistently affects our emotions, products evaluations, and purchasing decisions. Smart companies design tactile experiences that encourage touching, create positive associations, and ultimately drive the sales. From the texture of packaging to the layout of retail spaces, every tactile element is an opportunity to influence customer behavior and create memorable brand experiences. Here are the references that is used for these two sections of sensory marketing. So, through our exploration of smell and touch, we have seen how these powerful senses operate largely beneath the conscious awareness while profoundly influencing our emotions, memories, and purchasing decisions. The most successful brands understand that sensory marketing isn't just about products, it's about creating complete, memorable experiences that engage customers at the deepest psychological level. And that's also the end of my presentation on section 5 and 6 of sensory marketing. Thank you so much for your attention.